As it's now 6:30, I declare that this meeting is open for the transaction of any business which may properly come before it. We have two items on the agenda this evening. Both are bylaws. The first is bylaw 5518.
I want to rise on a point of order.
Councillor Mitchell.
And I'll keep it simple. This has been called as a special meeting of council. There are requirements to call a special meeting of council, which I've reviewed and researched, and we've fallen short and ignored the process generally. So specifically, under section 97 of the Cities Act, it specifies that all members of council shall receive at least 24 hours notice in writing of the time and place of the meeting, and in general terms the business to be transacted there. There's also provision for a notice to be posted by the city clerk in advance, and in general terms the business to be transacted. And specifically, because I, and I assume other councillors, received no notice from the clerk stating as required under the Cities Act the purposes of the meeting and time and place at which it is to be held, there was also no information on the location of the meeting as required. So that's the sort of simplest, most basic requirement that I don't think was met. And I would challenge on a point of order this meeting proceeding. We had this agenda scheduled for our next regular meeting. I don't understand how we're dealing with it now, and we haven't followed the process. So I'd like consideration of that point of order, that the requirements of the Cities Act and the city's procedural bylaw have not been met in putting this meeting forward.
For clarification, I would point to 9.191 of the city's procedure bylaw. Subject to subsection 2, the mayor may direct the city clerk to call a special meeting of city council whenever A, the mayor deems it expedient and in the public interest to do so, or the mayor is requested to do so in writing by a majority of councillors. It goes on to say, to state, and I mean all of the notices were sent out Thursday afternoon with notice that there would be a special city council meeting and the items to be dealt with. So I will disagree with the point of order, and we will carry on with the meeting.
Sorry, you didn't respond to my specific point. I understand that there was requirement that there had to be a notice from the mayor. I didn't see that.
Councillor,
but I'm not arguing
when
that.
you raise a point of order, you have an option to make your point on what grounds, and I have an opportunity to respond. It's not a debate between you and I.
No, but specifically you didn't respond to the point that the location of the meeting was not provided to the members of council.
City council meetings are normally held in city council chambers. I think that was an assumption that we would know there would be a crowd and that it was to be held here in the chambers to accommodate those that were interested in attending. So I deny the point of order. I don't believe it is accurate. Councillor Swanson.
Thank you. Well, that same procedure bylaw, Madam Mayor, that you quoted from, 9.1, 9.2 says, all members of City Council shall receive at least 24 hours notice in writing of the time and place of the meeting. The Cities Act also states, section 97.2, the clerk shall call a special council meeting by giving at least 24 hours notice in writing to each member of council and to the public, stating A, the purpose of the meeting, and B, the date, time, and place at which it is to be held. The notice we received of the meeting, although you might think it a small technicality, does not indicate the place of the meeting. The meeting that follows this executive committee, like all the other agendas we get, it says that there will be an executive committee meeting in the Scoop Lurie room. It identifies the place. Although you might think it a small technicality, technicalities are something you have to deal with. When you want to have a special meeting, you got to follow all the rules. Because if you don't follow all the rules and you think this is just a technicality that can be ignored, what rule do you ignore next time? So I would ask, and perhaps you might want to ask the solicitor, are the requirements of the procedure bylaw and the Cities Act met when there is no indication of the location of the meeting?
Mr. Galkatiechko.
Thank you, Chair. The notice of the meeting went out as it would normally go. It is assumed that the City Council chambers is where the regular meetings of council would attend. That is always the case.
Madam Mayor, you know, there's a saying about what happens when you assume. That is why
Could we have order, please?
That's why the Cities Act is very specific. Calling a special meeting is a power granted to the mayor in the Cities Act. And accompanying that power are certain requirements. And unfortunately, you missed one of the requirements, saying, you know, we can assume the meeting is in City Hall chambers. Well, that's great, but it might not be. And it doesn't say you can assume the meeting will be held where you normally have meetings. It says you must identify the date, time, and place at which the meeting is to be held.
When the city solicitor has made the comment that every notice goes out this way, and we are assuming that city council is the place that meets in council chambers, I would disagree with the point that was made. And notice was given for ample time. We were well within the timelines, and the information was provided. So I would disagree with the point of order. We have two items to deal with. The first is the bylaw 5518, cast iron water main construction bylaw, phase 1. We have a motion moved by Councillor Eby, seconded by Councillor Kirkpatrick, that bylaw number 5518 be now read a third time, adopted, signed by the mayor and city clerk, dated and sealed. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next on the agenda is bylaw 5519, the property tax bylaw 2016. Oh, city clerk. Oh, I'm sorry, Myron.
Bylaw 5518, cast iron water main construction bylaw, phase 1.
Next on the agenda is bylaw 5519, the property tax bylaw 2016. We have a motion moved by Councillor Eby, seconded by Councillor Boyle, that bylaw number 5519 be now read a third time, adopted, signed by the mayor and city clerk, dated and sealed. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
Bylaw number 5519, property tax bylaw 2016.
With that, our next regular meeting of City Council is scheduled for Monday, May 2nd, and we have an executive meeting to follow. With that, we're adjourned.